9 spine-chilling sleepover stories, unexplained horrors revealed from cursed nights gone sinister. Mia and her friends settled in, their giggles echoing through the cozy safety of her home on Pinecrest Lane. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of deep blue and soft lavender. Shadows danced across the walls, illuminated only by the flickering glow of a laptop screen. It was supposed to be the perfect sleepover filled with laughter and secrets, but something loomed in the air thick as fog. As they huddled in the living room, the chatter turned to hushed whispers about the infamous Night Watcher, the rumored entity stalking the neighborhood. Mia's heart raced as she began recounting the story, the spectral figure posing as a neighborhood security guard luring unsuspecting girls to the dark woods that waited just beyond the yard. The thrill of the story sent shivers down their spines, and as they exchanged fearful glances, the mood shifted ominously. Suddenly, there was a soft tapping sound against the window, slicing through their giggles like a knife. It was subtle yet insistent, sending chills through the girls. Mia jumped up, trying to laugh it off, but when she checked her phone, dread washed over her. Its screen was black dead. One by one, her friends checked their devices, and it hit them like a punch to the gut. Every phone was out of battery, cutting them off entirely from the outside world. The fear simmering just out of reach transformed into an electric tension crackling in the air. Just then, Luke, Mia's older brother, burst in with his uniform crisp and pressed. "Just checking on you girls," he said casually, but something felt off. His friendly smile morphed into a grimace that didn't settle well in Mia's stomach. The very symbol of safety now felt like a thin veil hiding a darker truth. Chuckles faded, replaced by frightened murmurings. They unconsciously began broadcasting their location on social media, a simple mistake that could expose them to danger in the dead of night. The laughter faltered, replaced with whispers of suspicion. Each strange noise grew louder, more apparent. The tapping came again, and again, like fingers beckoning them toward the tree-line. Terror tightened around their throats, a network of fear binding them together. Just as they were about to laugh it away, another sound erupted, this time from the backyard, a rustling, a presence creeping closer. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Mia glanced at the others, fear mirrored in all their eyes. They heard a whisper of wind, almost like a voice calling to them from the woods. A trapped feeling closed in around them. In a shaky breath, Mia whispered, "Should we go outside?" Just as she finished, Luke stepped in front of them, his face suddenly serious. "But you can't go out there, it's not safe," he warned, but the urgency in his voice felt wrong, as did the way he positioned himself between the girls and the door. It was then they understood, with sickening clarity, that an unspeakable horror loomed. He wasn't who he seemed to be. Panic gripped them, and in that moment, a loud thud resonated against the front door, drowning out their frenzied whispers. The cold crept in through the windows, wrapping around them like a noose. What if the Night Watcher was already inside? As they spun in confusion, their breaths quickened. Safety was slipping through their fingers. Would they uncover the truth, or had they walked into a trap they couldn't escape? The door shuddered under the weight of another powerful thud, prompting a collective gasp from the girls. Mia felt her heart hammering against her chest, rising out of control. Fear washed over them like a cold wave, pulling them deeper into an abyss of terror. They huddled closer together, eyes darting between Luke and the relentless thumping. "What was that?" Sophie whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't know, but we need to be quiet," Mia responded, her throat dry. They strained to listen over the pounding. Could it be the Night Watcher? The stories they had laughed and joked about only hours before now hung heavy in the air, like a noose tightening around them. Luke's face twisted, a troubling mix of attitudes playing out behind his eyes. "Stay back," he growled, stepping closer to the door. In that moment, the wind howled loud, shrill, almost warning them of the danger closing in. As Luke reached for the handle, Mia's instincts kicked in. "No! Don't open it!" she screamed, the words spilling out like a desperate plea. But it was too late. The door swung open with a creak louder than she thought possible. Darkness spilled into the room like an invading army. Luke's frame blocked the light from the hallway, shadowing his features, making him look almost monstrous. "Mia," he said softly, his voice eerily calm, "it's okay. I told you to stay inside. I'll deal with whatever's out there." One brief glance into his eyes froze her blood. She didn't recognize the boy standing before them. It was as if a curtain had dropped, unveiling someone sinister behind the familiar facade. The emptiness in his gaze churned her stomach, a pit filled with dread. The rustling in the backyard grew louder, and suddenly, a flash of movement darted past the door, a shadow skirting just beyond the threshold. The girl's heart synced in a rhythm of panic. "What was that?" Lila squeaked, clutching Mia's arm. "I don't know," Mia stammered, her throat tightening. What had the stories warned about? A shapeshifter? An entity that mirrored those they trusted? As if responding to her thoughts, Luke turned back toward them, the same unsettling grin plastered across his face. "You can trust me," he stated, though it sounded like a challenge. Bit by bit, the girls began to back away, dragging their feet unwillingly away from the phantom safety of the living room. Mia's mind raced. She needed a plan. "We need to get out of here," she whispered, urgency wrapped in her words. But as they took a step back, the sound of laughter echoed from the woods, chilling them to their core. It was an unearthly sound that sent shards of ice racing down Mia's spine. They were no longer just hearing the tales, they were in one. "Run!" Mia shouted, her instincts kicking in full force. Flashes of light flickered from the direction of the backyard, and with adrenaline coursing through her veins, she sprinted toward the only other exit, the kitchen. The girls followed suit, backs pressed against the walls, breathless gasps escaping their lips. Each footfall echoed like a drumming heart. But they didn't realize, as they ran, that Luke, no, whatever he really was not far behind. The darkness pressed in around them, and shadows seemed to stretch out, eager to embrace them. In a desperate moment, Mia turned to face her friends, hoping to keep them together, but something was wrong. A figure now loomed in the kitchen, waiting, arms draped casually across the counter, grinning with an unnatural twist. "Going somewhere?" it said, voice dripping with malicious delight, as if the night had conspired against them. Mia breathed heavily, panic surging within her. What was out there waiting for them? As the shadows deepened and the specters of the night closed in, she realized this wasn't just a story anymore. The Night Watcher was here, staring them down from inside her own house. Could they escape this horror in their own home? Or were they destined to face what lurked beneath the surface of their worst fears? Lila's scream shattered the air like glass, sending shards of terror through Mia. The figure in the kitchen coiled closer, the grin widening on its grotesque face. No longer was it Luke, it was something darker, something no human could bear to look at for too long. An all-consuming presence twisted the familiar into a nightmare. "Help!" Lila's voice cracked, pure desperation flowing from her like a flood. Mia felt her instinct to protect surge, but her legs felt like lead. Every fiber of her being urged her to run, but where? The kitchen was no sanctuary, it was a trap. "Stay behind me!" Mia yelled, trying to muster strength she didn't have. The others gathered behind her, fear etched deep into their eyes. Uncertainty loomed larger than the figure, clawing at the edges of their minds. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from behind them, the front door smashing shut in an unseen wind. They were trapped. Heartbeats raced in syncopated terror, a rhythm of panic echoing off the walls. "Are you sure it's safe to stay? Maybe we should go back," Sophie trembled, glancing back toward the door. "No!" Mia shouted, cutting her off. "We can't go back. We have to get out." The kitchen's shadows twisted, eager to engulf them, whispering secrets only the night could hold. The figure's voice turned velvety, tantalizing. "Why run? We can have so much fun together, it's just a game." Mia bit her lip to keep from screaming. She felt like she was being pulled by whispers of the abyss, urging her to join the chaos. Something danced at the edge of her vision, a flicker of movement just out of reach. They needed a way out, a distraction. We need to split up, Mia urged, her breath hitching. Create chaos. It won't know where to focus. Sophie and Lila exchanged nervous glances but nodded. In an impulsive move, Mia grabbed a metal pan from the counter and hurled it towards the window, shattering the glass into 1,000 shimmering shards. Go! She yelled and burst toward the shattered opening amidst the discord. Splinters of doubt clung to her, but the thrill of light peeking through the jagged fragments filled her with resolve. The light was brief as darkness rushed in behind her, swirling like a storm. Lila and Sophie followed, escaping the kitchen, throwing themselves into the gaping mouth of the unknown outside. But all three froze the instant they touched the grass, horror washing over them again. The yard was no longer familiar. Shapes began to materialize in the fog, figures shifting and murky in the pale moonlight. Shadows danced just out of reach, teasing them. What is happening? Lila gasped, her eyes wider than saucers. Shadows darted closer, taking form, whispering names that sent shivers up Mia's spine. Each name felt like a dare, pulling her toward the darkness. Just run! Mia yelled again. They sprinted for the trees, but something compelled Mia to look back. Luke, or what had once been Luke, stood in the doorway, a ghost of himself, his eyes glinting like snared light, grinning even as the wind howled. Come back to play, his voice echoed into the night. It wrapped around them like chains, burning with an unnatural heat. The trees loomed closer, swallowing the last traces of light. They could run, but where could they go? The laughter echoed again, this time accompanied by soft thumping sounds, each step hardening the ground beneath. Blood roared in Mia's ears as they dashed into the cover of branches and leaves. But the swirling shadows came alive, wrapping around the trunks, dragging along the ground, hungry for flesh and fear. Stay together! She shouted, racing ahead, the girls scrambling to follow. But in that moment, Mia realized behind her, Sophie was gone. Fear shoved through her like ice. Sophie! She screamed, her voice breaking. The forest snickered, and the night darkened further. The darkness was pulling them apart, and in that vulnerability, Mia felt a cold sweat creep along her spine. What had she unleashed? What followed them into the spiraling void? As the shadows thickened, she spotted a figure lurking just beyond the bend, an outline that twisted and laughed, beckoning with a wave. Let us see how this game ends, it hissed, sinking into the shadows that smothered the air. Mia's heart raced, wondering if escape was still possible, or if they had crossed a line that led deeper into a world that would not let them go. With panic burning, she took a deep breath, guiding the girls toward the unknown, desperate to find answers before they became part of the darkness themselves. Was the Night Watcher just a story, or had they awakened something far worse? Mia darted deeper into the trees, the branches clawing at her arms like skeletal fingers. The darkness thickened with every step, swallowing the muffled cries for Sophie. Lila stumbled beside her, breath hitching, panic reflected in her wide eyes. Did we lose her? Lila's voice trembled, barely a whisper, as if speaking Sophie's name would invite the shadows to claim her too. Mia's heart pounded, each beat a frantic reminder of their vulnerability. It was just a, leave the house, get away. A scream pierced the air, distant yet hauntingly near. Mia felt it crawl under her skin. We can't stop. We have to keep moving. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their gnarled roots twisting out of the ground, eager to entangle them. Lila followed, but Mia could feel the weight of despair settling in around them, threatening to pull them down. What if we can't find Sophie? Lila gasped. We will. We just need to. A growl interrupted Mia, low and guttural, rising from the depths of the dark. It slithered through the air, wrapping around them like a vice. The shadows flickered, as if something was shifting just beyond sight, waiting. They pressed on, the moonlight barely breaking through the canopy, creating patches of bluish terror on the ground. The laughter echoed closer, now a haunting symphony, taunting them with every step they took, and it filled the crevices of supported dread. Suddenly, Mia noticed something, flashes of movement among the roots. dark forms scuttled in the underbrush, darting in and out of sight. Were they critters? Or something far worse? Fear clutched her throat. Mia, look! Lila pointed toward a nearby tree where something was tucked between the gnarled roots, a bundle shrouded in darkness. A flash of recognition hit Mia. Her stomach twisted. No, it can't be. The realization hit Mia like a freight train. It was Sophie's backpack. Sophie! Mia shouted, running toward it. But before she could reach it, an icy wind swept through the trees, extinguishing any lingering hopes. The sound of branches cracking echoed ominously, and the shadows around them grew thicker. Something was coming. It had been following them. Get back! Lila screamed, pulling Mia away just as a dark shape lunged into view. A grotesque face twisted among the branches, mismatched features swirling in the night, growling with a hunger that penetrated their souls. Mia stumbled backward as cold sweat beaded on her brow. What is that? Run! Lila cried. They turned but found their exit blocked. More figures emerged from the darkness, shifting forms that leaned out of the trees, closing in like a noose tightening around their necks. Mia's breath quickened. This isn't real, it can't be. But terror locked her limbs in ice. Just when all hope seemed lost, a brilliant flash illuminated the space, revealing shapes that were both human and twisted, the tranquil faces of acquaintances, contorted into nightmares, eyes wide yet unseeing. Disoriented, Mia's gaze jerked to Lila. We can't stay here. I know. We need to find Sophie. Lila shouted back, her voice thick with fear. But as they moved, the shadows laughed together, mocking, disjoining any notions of hope. Each escape route became obscured by more branches. Each step felt like descending into deeper darkness, not merely chasing their friend, but also fending off their inevitable doom. Then, a shrill scream erupted. Sophie! It echoed through the trees, a raw sound of terror that pierced right into Mia's core. No, not again! Mia spun around, heart racing faster than her legs ever could. We have to go back. That way. She pointed, her voice firm. But Lila hesitated, her expression shifting from fear to something more profound, resignation. What if they're already? No! The resolve surged through Mia again. They couldn't give in. They had to face it. They had to find Sophie before they all became lost in the shadows forever. Then, as they prepared to plunge back into the heart of the forest, a low whisper crept into the air, curling around them like smoke. You're too late, she belongs to us now. The laughter rose once more, louder, blending into an unbearable cacophony. Mia clutched Lila's hand tight. We have to fight. For Sophie. We can't let them win. The shadows writhed, eager to consume them. They bolted back toward the sounds of struggle, desperate to save their friend before the night took them all. But in the swirling gloom, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Was Sophie really there, or had something more sinister already claimed her? With the laughter echoing and shadows ever closing, Mia felt a gnawing doubt gnawing at her resolve. What if they weren't just running away, but stumbling deeper into a trap they couldn't escape? Mia and Lila plunged back into the darkness, adrenaline surging through their veins. The night air felt thick and heavy, pressing down on their shoulders as the cacophony of laughter gelled into a haunting symphony around them. Each echo of their friend's cry sent sharp jolts of terror through Mia's heart. The shadows, alive and hungry, closed in like a pack of ravenous wolves. We have to hurry! Lila gasped, glancing nervously over her shoulder. They raced through the forest, the roots twisting like serpents beneath their feet, each step fraught with the risk of tripping. But the haunting laughter wrapped around them, the mocking calls drawing them deeper into the night. Sophie! Mia shouted, her voice raw, desperation tearing at the edges. Shh! Lila hushed sharply, fear coursing through her. What if they hear us? But like a moth drawn to flame, Mia pressed on, their bond stronger than the fear that clawed at her insides. A sudden crash startled them, the underbrush rustling violently nearby. They stopped, hyper-alert, breaths quickening. The shadows around them pulsed, shifting, writhing like a living, breathing thing. Do you see that? Lila whispered, pointing toward a flickering light up ahead, hidden between the trees. It was faint, a bauble amongst the black abyss, trembling like hope against despair. Mia nodded, eyes locked on the glimmer. Maybe it's Sophie. They stumbled forward, hearts racing as they navigated toward the light. But with each tentative step, the growls returned, low and thundering beneath the rush of their own pounding hearts. The laughter crescendoed, an orchestra of torment, wrapping around them tighter. As they reached the clearing, Mia's stomach twisted violently. The light flickered again, revealing what looked unmistakably like a campfire, but the flames were sickly blue, casting twisted shadows that danced upon the trees like grotesque marionettes. Stay close, Lila's voice wavered. The two girls peered around the fire's edge, their hopes plummeting as they spotted figures. Distorted shapes huddled around the flames, their backs turned. Their posture, rigid and unnatural, made Mia's skin crawl. It felt like stepping into a waking nightmare. Is that? It can't be. Lila's voice trailed off, paralyzed by horror. Mia squinted, but the tangle of dread muddled her vision. Then, as if sensing their presence, the figures turned abruptly. 5 faces stared back, twisted visages composed of both familiar and alien features. Each face wore a sinister grin, yet their eyes were dull, hollow vessels soullessly observing. "Welcome back," one of them crooned mockingly, a voice laced with malice that felt like knives carving into the night air. Mia stumbled back, heart hammering in her chest. "What have you done to her?" But the laughter erupted again, this time erupting from the figures like a low growl that morphed into a frenzy of mocking. "She belongs to us now," they chanted in unison, and with each echo, the shadows answered back, deepening the darkness. "We need to get out of here," Lila screamed, grabbing Mia's arm, but they were already surrounded. The shadows were closing in, an army of phantoms keen on dragging them into the abyss. Mia turned to flee, but the path behind them had vanished, swallowed by the deeper blackness. "Where do we go?" Out of the shadows, another screamed, "Sophie!" It shattered the night, more frantic, desperate than before. Mia's heart dropped, thundering louder than the laughter. "They couldn't leave her!" Mia pushed forward, trembling hands outstretched, seeking an escape. "Sophie! I'm coming!" she cried, each word fueling her desperation. The figures lunged as she barreled through, shadows reaching out, fingers clawing at her skin. But Mia refused to let go of hope, not now, not when Sophie needed her. "What if we can't escape?" Lila's voice broke, quavering with panic. But before Mia could respond, a thick fog rolled in, enveloping them both, blurring everything around. The whispers returned, chilling and sinister, coiling around their minds. "You can't fight fate," and as helplessness edged closer, a figure emerged from the fog. Silhouetted against the night, it bore a familiar outline, a distorted, hollow echo of Sophie. The girl's face shimmered like a mirage, a haunting reflection full of terror. Mia's heart squeezed painfully in her chest. Sophie? Could it be her friend, or just another trick of the darkness? "Help!" the figure whispered, an anguished plea that twisted deep within Mia's soul. "Run!" Lila yanked Mia back, dragging her away as the silhouette dissolved into the mist. They fled into the chilling embrace of the forest, shadows lunging wildly. And in the deafening silence, the last words echoed behind them, "You can't save her. She'll never be yours again." What if everything they loved was about to slip away into the night, just like Sophie? They plunged deeper into the forest, the air growing thicker with mist and dread. Each moment seemed to stretch, time warping around their frantic heartbeat. Lila pulled Mia along, her grip tight and desperate, willing them to run faster, to escape the chill that pricked at their skin. "What is happening?" Mia panted, glancing back over her shoulder, half expecting to see the figures emerging from the fog like phantoms after them. The laughter still crawled along her skin, a sickening echo that mirrored her own panic, an inescapable reminder of their loss. "I don't know." "Just keep going," Lila cried, her voice trembling. The trees closed in like sentinels, dark branches wrapping around them, and snaring them in an embrace that felt predatory. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath Mia's feet. She stumbled, nearly crashing to the forest floor, but Lila's hand yanked her upright just in time. Look! Lila pointed ahead, her eyes wide. There was a clearing up ahead, illuminated by a faint glimmer. Sophie could be there. Mia hesitated. The flickering light wove an almost hypnotic spell, promising hope but laced with danger. What if it's a trap? She whispered, her heart clenching tightly. Would you rather wander in the dark? Lila shot back, fear sparking her urgency. With a shared glance, fear coursing between them, they surged toward the light. As they approached, the illuminating glow morphed into a collection of small, floating orbs, spiraling in mesmerizing patterns. Colors shifted through the fog, hues of green, blue, and a soft, ghostly white. Mia reached out, entranced. What are they? Before Lila could answer, a chilling wind whipped through the clearing, extinguishing the orbs. The darkness returned, heavy and silent, swallowing the glimmers whole. In that instant, shadows morphed, stretching longer, creeping toward them like a tide. Run! Lila screamed, and they bolted again, desperation propelling them forward just as the laughter crescendoed into a haunting diabolical song. It was different now. It felt alive, wrapping around them, breathing with their own fear. We're not alone! Mia screamed, terror tightening around her throat. The shadows shifted into forms, flashes of familiar faces twisted with dread, and then, just as quickly, they were gone. No! Lila shouted, don't look! They raced back toward the knot of trees that marked their previous path. Mia could feel the darkness stretching, attempting to consume them whole. Her heart rang in her ears, drowning out the mocking laughter that now felt like a bubbling cacophony of chaos. A sudden thought gripped Mia. What if we can't find Sophie? What if we lose ourselves in this dark forever? Mia! Lila's voice broke through. Look! Ahead, among the dense fabric of night, a wooden figure, an ancient totem, carved grotesquely, looming menacingly. Its eyes glimmered a haunting red, reflecting a strange light in the darkness. Fear froze Mia in place, her heart skidding to a halt. Hide! Lila hissed, shoving Mia behind a thick trunk just as the totem's gaze seemed to focus on them. From here, they watched in horror as the laughter coalesced around the totem, spiraling into a whirlwind of sound that filled the air with dread. The shadows began to take form, swirling together, joining hands in a ritualistic dance around the lurking figure, invoking something ancient and malign. Maybe we can talk to it. Mia's voice quivered, but deep down, she knew any conversation would be a bargain with death. Are you crazy? Lila hissed. That thing can't help us. We need to get out. Now. And just then, the dull whispers intertwined with the laughter, a chilling promise wrapping around their minds. Join us, and she may yet be saved. Mia and Lila's eyes locked, terror unspoken but fully understood. They could feel the pull of the shadows growing stronger, greedily reaching toward them. A decision loomed, unwanted and heavy. What did they need to sacrifice to save Sophie? Would they dare? As the walls of darkness concluded their chthonic dance, Mia realized they were indeed trapped between a choice to fight or surrender. And the choice flickered like a failing candle, flicking, wavering, perhaps just a heartbeat away from being extinguished forever. Mia swallowed hard. We need to decide. Now. But before she could say more, the totem shuddered, its gaze intensifying, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. What would they risk to reclaim what they sought? The earth shuddered violently, and for an instant, Mia thought they might be swallowed whole. Lila gripped her arm tighter, nails biting into flesh. The totem's eyes glowed brighter, a warning and a lure all at once. What do we do? Mia gasped, her voice almost lost in the tumult of laughter and whispers swirling around them. We can't stay here, Lila shouted, her breath coming in ragged gasps. We must distract it. Maybe we can find a way to break its hold. Mia's heart raced. How? What if it hears us? I don't know. Just do something. The shadows surged toward them, drawn to the desperation rising in the air between them. Without thinking, Mia lunged forward, seizing a fallen branch from the ground. It was cold and wet, slick with moss, but it would have to do. Hey! She yelled, her voice cracking. You! Over here! Lila's eyes widened. Mia, no! But it was too late. The totem's gaze shifted, drawn by her voice. The laughter stopped, replaced by a heavy silence, like the moment before a storm. Mia took a step forward, feeling the weight of the shadows pushing against her. We just want Sophie. You have to let her go. And then she swung the branch toward the totem, missing its head but striking the soft earth beneath it. A tremor pulsed through the ground, as if the very soil was alive, reacting to her provocation. To her horror, the totem began to groan, its carved face shifting in a grotesque display of anger. A crash of thunder boomed overhead, shaking the branches above them, sending leaves fluttering like frightened birds. The air crackled, thickening like a fog, and the shadows wriggled in fury. Mia, back! Lila shouted, tugging her to safety behind the trunk again as the ground bucked violently. From within the totem, a voice rasped, deep and ancient, echoing with an otherworldly tone. What do you offer in exchange? What will you sacrifice? The question hung there, heavy. Mia's throat went dry. She could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against her, seeping into her thoughts, whispering promises, weaving nightmares born from her fears. I'll do anything! Mia shouted, desperation clawing at her. Just let Sophie go. Lila's expression twisted in panic. Mia, don't! But it was too late. The shadows surged forward, a wave of cold that wrapped around them, pulling them toward the totem's base, where the ground opened like a ravenous maw, a dark pit swarming with fog and despair. With an ominous growl, the totem replied, A soul for a soul, child. What will you give? Mia's heart raced as the shadows began to materialize before her, fragments of memories she had tried to forget, moments of anger, fear, deep-seated regrets clawing back to the surface. She felt herself sinking into the darkness, her very essence flickering like a fragile candle. No! She screamed, fighting against the pull. I wouldn't give you anything. But the shadows yanked at her, insatiable and greedy, stripping her of thoughts until all she could feel was the heavy weight of despair. Mia! Fight it! Fight! Lila begged, pulling her back, her voice barely breaking the din. The laughter resumed, even louder than before, mocking her resolve as if the darkness were feeding off her fear. Suddenly, Mia remembered something, a moment in the past, a glimpse of strength hidden deep within her. If they were to escape, they had to believe, they had to embrace the light they had left. She squeezed Lila's hand, a surge of warmth igniting between them. Together! Mia shouted, feeling every fiber of her being connect, remembering Sophie's laughter and the warmth of their friendship. The shadows recoiled slightly, hesitating. With a renewed scream, Mia and Lila backed away from the totem, pulling on each other, determined to push through the despair. What do we do now? Lila shouted through the chaos. From behind them, there was a flicker, a heartbeat of light peeking through the trees just beyond the clearing. Run! Towards the light! Mia cried, dragging Lila with her as they darted through the forest, shadows clawing at their heels, laughter echoing their every step. But the whispers chased them still, coiling around their thoughts. You cannot escape, you cannot flee, we will find you again. As they raced for the flickering hope ahead, fear settled heavily in their hearts. Would they make it? Would the dark let them go, or was this only the beginning of a nightmarish cycle? Suddenly, a scream pierced the night, not their own. It rang out with agonizing clarity, echoing through the trees. Mia's heart sank as the realization hit. Was that Sophie? No! We can't leave her! Lila gasped, halting suddenly, pulling away from Mia. What are you doing? Mia cried, her pulse pounding. I can't leave her! Lila turned back to the darkness, determination in her gaze. Mia opened her mouth to protest, but deep inside, she felt the magnetic pull of loyalty. Lila, wait! But she was already racing into the shadows. The laughter swelled. The laughter promised darkness. Would they be consumed by the very thing they feared, or could they find their way back, together? The choice loomed again, heavy and treacherous. The forest watched and waited for an answer. Lila, no! Mia screamed, her voice swallowed by the darkness that surrounded them. She could see Lila's figure shrinking as she plunged deeper into the shadows, the flickering light behind them fading fast. Mia hesitated, grief and panic intertwining like vines around her heart. The laughter, harsh, mocking, swirled through the trees, and for one terrifying moment, she wanted to turn back, to flee and abandon everything. But Sophie's scream echoed in her mind, a haunting plea that yanked her forward. Mia! We have to go back. Another voice broke through the cacophony, Tom, Lila's older brother, appearing from behind a twisted tree trunk, eyes wild with terror. No! We can't leave her! Mia shot back, dread clawing at her. He stepped closer, shadows flickering along his edge. Mia, if we don't leave now, we'll be trapped here forever. A burst of thunder rolled above, vibrating through the ground, and Mia glanced back just in time to see Lila engulfed in darkness, a figure lost to the abyss. Fear clawed at her insides, urging her to act. I can't just do nothing. The more we linger, the more it'll claim us. Tom shouted, desperation spilling into his voice. With a heavy heart, Mia grappled with her choice. Could she really leave Lila? But the shadows around them were restless. Hungry, they could feel the presence of the totem heating up even more as the laughter rose in intensity, a symphony of chaos. Mia! Out of time! Tom's hand grasped hers, pulling her toward the light. No! She tore her hand away. The darkness wrapped around her, almost like an embrace, and she felt herself being pulled into its depths. Mia! She turned back, watching as Tom's face twisted with fear. The shadows quaked, pulling her toward the gaping mouth of the totem. The air thickened, laced with a bitter, intoxicating scent, wrenching and pulling at her mind. Flashes of her memory's warm laughter, school days with Sophie, the comfortable embrace of friendship mingled with visions of despair and loss. Her will began to fracture like ice beneath heavy boot falls. Mia! Fight it! Tom shouted again, his voice tinged with urgency. She steeled herself against the darkness. I'll find you, Lila, she promised. But even as she said it, the laughter morphed into shrieks of anguish, resonating through the trees like a twisted song. Mia turned and dashed towards the fading light, blinking away the darkness that blurred her vision. With each step, the trees around them shifted, as if the forest was alive and breathing, the shadows stretching like fingers hungry for warmth. The ground was uneven, roots grasping at her ankles like malicious hands trying to pull her back. Don't look back! Tom shouted, his voice steady even under the pressure of the chaos swirling around them. But Mia's heart was still tethered to Lila. The forest seemed to mock her, encasing her in a flurry of sorrow as memories of laughter morphed into echoes of screams. Just as they burst through the edge of the clearing, a flash of movement caught her eye. Lila! The figure emerged from the depths, pale, gaunt, eyes wide and hollow. It wasn't Lila. It was a ghoul-like image of what her friend could become, a husk of despair, and it grinned, an immense and terrible smile. Mia, the creature called, its voice both familiar and foreign, vibrating through her bones. No! You're not Lila! Mia screamed, stumbling back, the darkness at her heels threatening to swallow her whole. This is what awaits you. The shadows shifted, echoes of others' faces twisted beyond recognition, trapped in endless torment. Join us! Mia felt Tom's firm grip tighten around her wrist. Run! Breathless, they sprinted towards the light, but that darkness was insatiable. The laughter crescendoed, an orchestra of madness ready to claim them. And then she heard it, the sound they all dreaded. A final scream. It was Lila. Tom! Mia cried out, but he was already pulling her away, away from the edge, away from the laughter, their hearts pounding like war drums. As they stumbled into the clearing, a blinding light forced her to shut her eyes. The shadows shrieked in agony, holding ground just beyond the barrier, writhing against the light that pushed them back. For a brief moment, Mia could sense the totem's power weakening, but it was still there, dark and evil-hungry. What? That was her scream! Mia gasped, stumbling forward, panic clawing at her chest. I know, but we can't go back. We need to regroup, figure out a plan. Tom's voice cut through her despair, pushing her to focus. Mia's mind raced, desperation seeping into her bones. But we can't leave her. We owe it to her. We can't end up like her. You need to trust me. As the light flickered, Mia caught a glimpse of a shadow shifting behind the totem. Something was moving, something beyond what they had faced. What if the light is a trick too? She whispered, dread creeping in again. Suddenly, a rumble shook the ground. A terrible noise erupted from the totem as the shadows howled in protest. The light dimmed, returning to a haunting twilight that clawed at the edges of their sanity. Mia, we have to go now. Tom's grip tightened one more time, but she felt herself rooted to the ground. The laughter rose again, sweeping over them like a wave, swirling with shadows, pulling on her soul. Mia. We must decide. The shadows beckoned, promising safety, warmth. But at what cost? Could she find Lila? The decision pressed hard. The darkness encroached, wrapping around them, urging them ever closer to the totem. What would they sacrifice? A heartbeat of silence hung before everything shattered. Run! But Mia hesitated, torn between worlds, so she stood there, frozen, on the threshold of choice, as everything she knew whispered through the trees, and one question remained: can loyalty alone save them, or would it leave them in eternal darkness? Mia! Come on! Tom's voice cut through the chaos like a knife, but it barely reached her through the fog of fear that enveloped her mind. She could still hear Lila's scream, echoing in her ears. The laughter tainted with pain twisted around her, wrapping her in icy hands that seeped into her thoughts. No! She shouted, shaking her head as if it would clear the horrible images from her mind. What if she couldn't find Lila? What if they could never return? Tom pulled her again, his face straining with urgency. We can't stand here. We're losing time. The shadows swirled, shifting like a living thing, clearly preparing to snatch them back. With a sudden surge of resolve, she tore herself away from the haunting pull of the darkness and sprinted alongside Tom. They rushed through the thickening shadows, the trees closing in like a predator circling its prey. But then, the ground quaked beneath their feet. A sinister crack split the earth, shadows spilling like ink from the depths of the fissure. The air thickened, carrying the stench of decay that made Mia's stomach churn. Look out! Tom shouted, and they barely dodged a mass of writhing vines that shot up from the chasm, reaching, grasping, as if the forest itself had turned against them. Mia's heart raced. This was more than just a totem. It was an entire realm of unholy terror. They stumbled back, chasing the faint light that had led them here against the tide of darkness that threatened to pull them under. Desperation clawed at Mia's insides. What are we going to do? I don't know. Tom shouted back, fear swirling in his eyes. We need to find a way to destroy it. The laughter crescendoed again, mocking them, echoing their despair. It was a cacophony of anguish. You think you can escape? It jeered. You're already lost. Mia's breath caught in her throat as a dark shape flickered at the edge of the clearing. It was back, Lila's ghastly figure, hollow eyes staring right through her, the same haunting grin playing across its lips. Join us, Mia, it whispered seductively, and with that the shadows surged forward, forming an impenetrable wall, sealing them away from the last vestiges of light. No! Mia cried, fighting the reeling dread threatening to pull her down again. But deep inside doubt gnawed at her. Was this where Lila had gone? Could she save her friend if the shadows promised comfort? Don't listen! Tom yelled, his voice a lifeline against the tide of despair. We're getting out of here. Suddenly, Mia felt the pull of the totem's energy coiling around her, charging the air with electricity. It wants us! She gasped. The shadows were no longer just dark figures. They were eyes, hungry and alive, ready to consume them. Mia! Focus! Tom yelled, shaking her shoulders, snapping her out of the trance. Let us burn it! She shouted, the idea exploding into her mind. The totem, it's made of dark wood. What if we set it on fire? Tom blinked, comprehension rising. Can I have my lighter? But as he rummaged through his pocket, the laughter escalated, drowning out their thoughts and shredding their resolve. Mia! Do it! He urged. No! Lila's ghastly specter screamed, and Mia felt a tremor of fear coursing through her body. You can't do this! Join us, Mia, find peace! The shadows closed in, each laugh driving a spike of terror through her heart. But before she could spiral into the darkness, a surge of determination gripped her. We can't let this end with us. Now! Tom yelled as a small flame flickered to life. As he angled the flame at the base of the totem, shadows writhed and hissed in protest, but it was too late. The flames leapt up greedily, licking the thick wood, a light breaking in the void of despair. But as they watched the fire dance, the shadows screeched, twisting into monstrous faces, eyes narrowing in outrage. And in that belly of flames, the laughter morphed into a deafening roar that rattled the very earth beneath them. Run! Before it fights back! Tom shouted, yanking Mia's hand, dragging her away from the inferno. As the heat intensified, the world around them blurred into chaos. Shadows and flames melding into an apocalyptic landscape. The laughter twisted into rage, promising vengeance and despair. Mia! Tom pulled her closer as the forest rumbled, pulling them into a maze of dark and light, a place where truth and vision blurred. Did we do it? She panted, heart racing. But the shadows surged painfully close, whispers curling around them like smoke. You think you can burn away the darkness? You think you can run? The voices cried, echoing Lila's torment. No! Tom yelled, frustration flaring. Push beyond this burden. Mia's mind summoned, while she clung on to Tom, fear gripping her stronger than ever. But then it hit her, realization crashing down like a thunderbolt. The totem was only the beginning. If they stirred it awake, if they angered the darkness, Tom, what if this isn't just about us? She breathed. What if it wants us to bring others? Suddenly, they were surrounded by shadows again, faces lurking within. Tasting their fate, the ground split with a thunderous roar, and they fell. And as the world darkened around them, one question echoed into the abyss: what if the shadows knew more than they realized? What if they were just the first offerings of an ancient hunger waiting to awaken? Mia's mind spun with horror as darkness pulled at them, the yawning chasm threatening to consume them completely. She squeezed Tom's hand tighter, feeling their connection resound like a lifeline among the chaos. In the dim light, she saw fear mirrored in his eyes, but beneath it glimmered a flicker of determination. Together! She urged, her voice barely a whisper, yet it rang with strength and urgency. We have to fight! With that, they plunged deeper into the chasm, the shadows swirling around them, laughing, taunting, threatening to strip them of everything they held dear. As they fell, time warped, the world blurring, and the darkness pressed against them, cold and suffocating. Suddenly, they landed hard on the ground, the impact jarring them but also grounding them in the moment. Chest heaving, Mia got her bearings. Which way was up? Lila's scream pierced the air once more, and her heart raced as she fought to stand. Lila! She yelled, voice quaking with desperation. But it was Tom who resolved to move, tugging her onward. We have to keep looking. They pushed forward, the air thick with despair, eddying shadows enveloping them like vicious half-formed memories. Glimmers of light flickered in the distance, like fireflies in the dark, hope in the form of sickly illumination. Is that? Tom hesitated, but there was no room for doubt. They stumbled toward it, forging through swirling tendrils of fog that snaked around their ankles, pulling at their resolve. As they neared, the silhouettes of figures became visible, hunched phantoms adorned with hollow eyes, their expressions distorted by wretched grins. Mia's heart sank. Could it be the twisted forms of their friends, drawn into the darkness? Stay together, she urged, the adrenaline pulsing through her veins. They pushed into the light, hearts hammering in sync, ready to confront the horror, but as they entered the flickering glow, reality twisted violently. Time twisted and blurred once more like a funhouse mirror, and suddenly they stood on the precipice of decision. The shadows shifted, whispering secrets of trade, dark promises of loyalty to their pasts, and futures they could never reclaim. Mia, a voice echoed, twisted yet alluring. It was Lila, her form barely recognizably anymore, swathed in the shadows, arms stretched out as if beckoning. Join us, it's where you belong. Mia swallowed hard against the knot of emotion tightening her throat. No! We're coming to get you! But Lila's figure shifted, rippling like water, dispersing into the depths of shadows around them. You can't save her. You'll be lost. The world around them pulsed with foreboding, darkness digging deeper into their thoughts, clawing at their resolve. We can't let it win! Tom shouted, pulling Mia at a right angle away from the dark pool of despair that threatened to drown them. Believe we can escape this. But it was now or never. They had come this far. Together. Mia cried, her voice slicing through the murky air, igniting a spark amidst their fear. They surged toward the flickering glimmer of light, shadows swirling frantically behind them, their laughter escalating into a maddening roar. Just then, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The fabric of reality splintered, splitting wide open, a chasm expanding between them and the light. Mia stumbled, Tom barely catching her before she fell. They tucked low, bracing against the force that threatened to pull them apart. Think of Lila! Mia cried, clenching Tom's arm, the pain sharp but grounding. We need to find a way to get her back. As the shadows swirled, she felt a surge of warmth. Memories of laughter surged through her, all the moments they'd shared, the triumphs, the dreams. The sickly laughter crescendoed again, and her determination solidified. We can do this. We're stronger together. A surge of strength coursed through them, igniting a brilliant light within the depths of their hearts. Together. Tom echoed, their voices rising above the chaos. The shadows recoiled, hissing and screeching in fury, trying to push back against the light cascading from their united resolve. Destroy the totem! Mia shouted, heart racing as they rushed towards it, the structure looming as if it were the heart of their despair. They reached for the base, hands trembling but resolute. With one final shout of strength, get out of our way! Lights exploded from their palms, rushing toward the totem as if born from the very essence of their friendship. Bright flames leaped up, engulfing the dark wood, flames twisting and illuminating the night. The shadows shrieked, writhing in agony as the light fought back against ancient darkness. In that moment, all their love, their laughter, their longing to protect Lila ignited into a ferocious blaze. The totem cracked, the dark energy erupting in a maelstrom of chaos. Suddenly, Mia felt herself falling, reeling, spinning, and she instinctively squeezed Tom's hand, letting the light wash over them. With a blinding explosion, it was done. The shadows dissolved like smoke caught in a sudden gust. The world around them brightened as the screams distilled into a profoundly piercing silence. Mia blinked, overwhelmed with warmth and light. As the remnants faded away, she found herself back on the ground, the sunlight streaming down. Everything felt impossibly serene. Lila! She called, heart racing. And there she was, stumbling back into view, breathless but alive. Mia! The relief was palpable in her voice as she rushed over, arms wrapping tightly around her. I thought, no, you're okay. We did it! Mia's heart swelled with joy as they embraced, catching Tommy's eye over her shoulder, gratefulness radiating between them. Together, they had fought against the darkness, broken through the weight of despair, and emerged in the sunlight once more. Yet Mia knew they would always carry the shadows within them, a reminder of the power of courage and the light that could triumph over darkness. Would they ever forget that night? Maybe not. But now, they were ready to face anything. Together as they shared tearful laughter, light surrounded them, each heartbeat a reminder of their bond strong enough to withstand what had nearly torn them apart. And with that, the sun set on Pinecrest Lane, one last heartbeat of unbreakable unity, an echo of hope in a world forever brightened by the strength of friendship. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel. Your true fandom means everything.